It is springtime, and our guest for the show on Entertainment Extra with Joe Crawford on RemicTV.com is a good expert to have on, especially because I guess any season would be great to have this guest on here because she is an expert at landscaping and garden designer. She is the principal of her own design group. Gina Samarotto, how are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning to you too. Now, Gina, you are a landscape and garden designer. What got you into doing that kind of landscaping?
I grew up in Manhattan. I grew up outside of Manhattan in the city in an apartment and never had a backyard, never had outdoor space. Fast forward when I had my first child up to the suburbs, and all of a sudden I had a backyard for the first time. And there's this half an acre of property, which for me might as well have been strawberry fields. It was so intimidating. And so what I did was began taking a lot of courses, both in horticulture and design, and it turned into a complete obsession and passion of mine.
Beautiful. Now, how can one say, like I know a lot of the fancier places can do themselves up real nice and done up with landscaping and gardening in their front yard or their backyard or restaurants like that. But for people who are like me, who really don't have much money, say, how can one do it on such a fixed budget and make it so beautiful still?
There's a lot to be said for doing it once and doing it right. And the architecture of the space and how you design the bones of it are really going to define the overall aesthetic. So if you're looking to design on a smaller budget, either within a large footprint or in a smaller footprint, what I tell my clients is first make sure that the bones of the design are really solid. You want to make sure that the pathways, the gardens, the groupings that you create are really cohesive with your home, cohesive with your style. You can very easily take a grouping of containers and have them done up beautifully and feel as if you have a garden space if you live in an apartment with a tiny little patio.
No. Well, go ahead.
Or just have something flanking your front doors. I would rather see less of a better quality and a better design than what unfortunately I do see a lot of, which is people who kind of just keep throwing little bits of money at a project, and before you know it, you have this stew of design and nothing really works with anything else.
And it's overcrowded and it kind of turns out, excuse the expression, but turns out more like crap.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, the technical design term for that we say is crapping it up.
There you go.
Yeah.
Now, okay, then what kind of, with that being said and done, props or objects or maybe flowers are good to have then to make the spot more beautiful?
If you're looking at, say, a tree, you're not just going to look at, okay, this is a tree, it's got leaves, maybe it has flowers. You want to look at the structure of it. If you think about an evergreen as opposed to a birch, you have a very different kind of style and structure to it. A birch with an open format is going to let light pass through. It's got more of a skeletal, spinier structure as opposed to an upright evergreen. So you're thinking about what every element of that piece is going to bring. Is it going to cast really cool shadows in the evening? Is it going to cast a lot of shade? Is it going to provide privacy? Do you have a bloom time? You think of all of the attributes and you think about how it's going to lend itself to your space. So if I am looking for one tree, say, to flank the front of a home, it better bring a lot to the table. I want to see a bloom in the spring. I want to see a really beautiful lyrical movement of leaves during the season. I want to see fall color. And when the tree is completely bare in the wintertime, I want a structure of the trunk and branches that's interesting and beautiful in its own right, as opposed to plopping a pine tree and calling it good. What you've got with something that's a little more thoughtfully chosen is something that's going to change and evolve from season to season.
Now, so then that brings me to my next question then. I guess spring is probably maybe the more popular time of getting things out and set up, but it's more or less an all year type of thing then.
Well, you want it. That's a really good point, because people go out in the spring and they go to the nursery and, oh, this is beautiful, that's beautiful, this is lovely. 3 weeks later, the bloom is over and they've got a lot of green stuff and it's not doing a whole lot. And what they don't have is a landscape. What they had, past tense, is a lot of color for a couple of weeks and now it's over.
Right.
So you really want to think about what it's going to look like from month to month to month. That's why you always see gardens that explode in May and June and then just kind of peter out the rest of the year, unless you designed it and planned it for four-season interest.
Beautiful. And Gina can be found on her website, SamarottoDesigns.com. That's SAMAROTTO Designs.com, to get these tips from Gina. Now, Gina, why would, other than the fact that it looks beautiful and it maybe would attract people, why would people want to create such a beautiful living space?
Well, you could go from the very pragmatic, fundamental investment purposes. Curb appeal when you're buying or selling a house absolutely is going to make a difference. It is, in this market where there is such an influx of people trying to sell their homes, I get an awful lot of calls from realtors and sellers who say, we need to do something to make this home stand out. So if a potential buyer is looking at 3 or 4 properties, and one of them is, oh, there's the one with that garden, the one that was so beautiful from the street, it really does make an impact. And from an emotional point of view, people like to be in spaces that make them feel good, that are beautiful, and make them feel comfortable. And one of the nicest compliments I ever got was a client who said, every time I come home, I smile. It made coming home, she looked forward to it, because it was just a nice place to be. It's, design, what I do is exterior design as opposed to interior design. When you're sitting in a gorgeous room, you like being there as opposed to sitting in, a drab, unpleasant, uncomfortable room. The same applies for outdoor living spaces. And that's really where my specialty is creating outdoor living spaces, not just trees in front of the house or shrubs.
Yeah, and also it also would also add flavor to the atmosphere when you're having an outside party.
Absolutely. And it encourages people to use their space. And, throughout the whole U.S., where taxes are high, mortgages are, people are struggling to pay their bills, I don't see the point in having anything I'm paying for, whether in mortgage or taxes, that I'm not using. So if I've got a beautiful outdoor space that extends my living space and extends how I can entertain and live, you might as well take advantage of it.
Beautiful. Now, Gina, I know we've just been talking about the outside space with flowers and plants and trees and shrubbery and all that, but it goes more into that, because like I see nowadays people are putting out furniture outside as well. Now, is there any specific type of furniture that would be good to be put outside, and then how do you protect it from the inclement weather?
Well, the furniture that you choose for outside, you want to choose as carefully as you would for interior stuff. You get what you pay for. If you buy an inexpensive set in your local big box store, it's going to show age. It's not going to give you a whole long lifespan. That's one of the places where I say get the key pieces. Get your table, get your chairs, get your chaises. Go for a better quality line of furniture, and you'll have it for absolute years. Depending on where you live, there's absolutely no need to take it in or even cover it. If you live in the Northeast, or where it's really going to take a winter beating, if you have the space to bring it indoors, by all means do so. If not, you could certainly cover it for the season. And pay attention to the textiles. If you have wrought iron furniture or oiled bronze furniture and you're just taking in the cushions and pillows, you should be fine. And with wooden pieces, and I use an awful lot of teak and cedar, you really have to be committed to once a year. You're going to want to wash those down and perhaps give it a new coat of oil and just keep that wood moisturized and supple to give it the best lifespan.
All right, Gina Samarotto, her website, SamarottoDesigns.com. And Gina, I don't know if you've done this before. Is this your first time going over to Italy? What an honor to do that, and to be designing in one of the beautiful places in Italy, Tuscany of all places. Now, people can come and actually journey with you on this excursion in May, and how can someone get involved in that?
This is a wonderful opportunity for somebody who loves design and style, and not necessarily just landscape, but design and style as a whole. This is an opportunity to visit and tour through the Tuscan and Umbrian regions with myself, as well as the tour operators who have been doing this for 15 years. We're going to be exploring what makes Tuscany Tuscany. We're going to be going out to the market in the morning with the chef and the vinter and myself as the designer, and creating a meal that looks as good as it tastes, and choosing the wines that are going to go with it. Bring it all back to this palazzo we're staying in. The guests have an opportunity, if they want to cook alongside the chef and a cooking demonstration and lesson, they're welcome to do that. If they'd like to create centerpieces and table settings with the designer, with me, I'd be thrilled to have them. If they want to explore the cellars with the vinter and choose the wines for that evening, they're welcome to do that, or they can do all three. We'll be visiting some of the most spectacular yet very unheard of, off the beaten track locations. We're going to be going to the Gardens of Bamarzo, which is a private garden that has monuments larger than life, very fairy tale-like, almost monsters created in enormous scale stone. Going to ancient villages and kind of exploring these little places, and then coming back to this wonderful palazzo in the evening, have a glass of wine by the pool, talk about our day. It's a small group. We limit it to about 8 people.
Nice.
There are 3 people, 2 of the tour hosts themselves, plus me as the designer, plus access to the chef and the vinter. So it's very personal and very custom, and it's through a company called Italian Excursion, and they are on the web at italianexcursion.com, where this trip is featured.
And that's going to be done in May. And what a place to do it in. I know there's a lot of different places that are beautiful across the world, but maybe I'm being a little prejudiced because I am Italian myself. I've been to Italy last year in September with family. I've been there a few times now in Italy. And just a breathtaking, scenic, lovely, beautiful place to be. And especially in May when you're going, it's going to be great.
Isn't it? It's spectacular, and things are starting to bloom. You know, you can take the train even from the airport into Viterbo or some of the other areas, and out the window you see acres and acres of red poppy fields, and just the most stunning springtime awakening of any place I've ever visited.
If you want a trip of a lifetime, that's in ItalianExcursions.com.
ItalianExcursion.com, and there's a link to that on my website as well.
Beautiful, which is SamarottoDesigns.com. Gina, I want to thank you very much. Have a safe trip. I wish I was going to be with you to Italy, but I can't go. But I wish I could. And Gina, you're more than welcome to come on the show anytime. We'd love to have you on, and maybe we can see some examples next time of some of your designs and go on a little tour with you.
I'd love to. What I'll do is I'll email you some of the photographs and videos from some of the other trips and some of the projects we're working on, and hopefully the viewers will get inspired to try some of them.
All right. Thank you very much, Gina Samarotto. I got to say arrivederci, Bella.
Arrivederci. Grazie mille.
Grazie tutti. SamarottoDesigns.com or ItalianExcursions.com to go on that beautiful Italy trip with Gina and what we just talked about now. And that's going to be in May. Thank you very much for watching Entertainment Extra with yours truly, Joe Crawford. Watch all our videos here on RemixTV.com.